So, part of being in sales, something we all probably have already experienced. I think April is fairly new real estate agent, so maybe you've not experienced it yet, and Christy, you are too. But is we have objections we always have to overcome. Really, even if you're not in sales, um, you're overcoming objections. It's kind of just part of navigating through life a lot, especially if you're married, number one. Um, and then if you have kids too, you find yourself often overcoming objections. So it's really just part of life. Nobody, it's funny, I was having a conversation with one of my kids last night. It was about confrontation, how, nobody really likes confrontation. I said, well, actually, I think some people do enjoy it, but nobody probably really likes it. In sales, I don't really like it necessarily when there's an objection and I'm having to overcome it. However, I will tell you this, and it's something I've learned over my 30 years of doing mortgage loans. If you're hearing objections, you're probably having the right conversations. You might need to reframe when you get an objection that it's not someone that doesn't want to do business with you. They're just not sure right now why they should do business with you or why they should do business, period, with anyone, right? So it's really just having the right conversation. So sometimes you might have to reframe how to overcome objections. Show of hands. How many of you have heard one of these in the last week? We're just looking. Anyone heard that? Just looking. How many of you have actually said that sometime this week while you're out shopping for something? Right. We already have an agent. Have you heard that one recently? Okay. Here's another one. We want to wait. Okay. I've heard that one this week from a client I'm working with Madison and Mac. They want to wait a little bit. How about, and this is kind of related to that one, now's not the right time. All right. Those are just some common, I think, um, objections that we get. And I think if we treat them correctly, we can figure out how to overcome it. I'll give you a quick little story about, I don't know, 5, 6 years ago. Trish and I, if y'all know me very well, we like Airstreams. It's kind of our hobby outside of smoking cigars, which is not Trish's hobby, but our hobby combined mutually as a married couple is camping and our Airstream. So about 6 years ago, we had an Airstream. We took it into Greensboro. There's an Airstream dealership there. We took it there to get some work done. And while we were waiting for the work to be done, we started browsing the newer streams and kind of walking them. Okay. First thing out of our mouth when we were approached by salespeople, we're just getting some work done. We're just looking. Now, this is one of the best salespeople I've ever met. But within 3.5 hours, Trish and I had put a deposit down, signed a contract for $120,000 Airstream with upgrades. I'm not exaggerating. So within 3.5 hours, we went from just looking to being committed buyers to having one built with our specifications on it. There are ways when you hear that term, we're just looking, you could very well be talking to somebody that is ready to sign a contract on a home this weekend. So when you hear those words, don't let your conscience tell you, oh, this is not someone I should be willing to invest my time with. They very well may be the best client you're talking to right now and the best contact that you're talking to right now. So don't let those things get in the way. So, what we're going to learn to do, I think, today is what I like to teach you to do is learn how to treat objections with questions back to the client, potential client. And what you're going to find out is people, I believe, make purchase decisions based off of emotions, and we want to tap into those emotions. And this is exactly what was happening to my wife and I when we were looking at this Airstream. We were picturing ourselves at a campground with this hatch that lifted up with all these different little features that we weren't able to experience right now with what we had, and we wanted to live in that moment, right? And all of a sudden, we're making this ridiculous decision that we probably shouldn't have made, but we were there signing documents. So, we're doing this because we want to make sure we're asking the right questions. We're not walking away. We're not canceling a client too quickly and removing them out of our pipeline, that we're doing the right thing to help them meet their needs. All right. So, what do objections actually mean? I think people object when they feel three different things. One, they feel uncertain about things. Or secondly, they may feel uninformed about things. Or maybe they're just being cautious and nervous about making a big decision. I mean, buying a home is a big decision. Now, we all know, because we're on the side of things, the value that that creates in a person's life long term. But to them, most people, this is a house payment. And in some instances, we're talking about going from X number in rent to a much larger number in payment. And that's all they see. And it is nervous. And it's a lot of anxiety. I mean, people have anxiety even if they're moving from one apartment to another apartment. Just the move itself has anxiety attached to it. So sometimes people are just nervous about making or a big decision. People object when they're interested, but they're not yet convinced. Okay. So we just want to treat the objections as something that we can get across, make an engagement with a client, keep moving forward. So I'm going to give you a simple structure to do this, and it's an acronym. So if you want to write this down, the acronym is the word LAST, LAST, LAST. The L in it means listen, let them finish speaking without interruption. Man, this is a great tactic as a husband to my wife as well too, is don't interrupt when the lady is talking. But it also works back when I need to express how I feel and not being interrupted either. And it makes me feel like people are really truly listening to my concern. So, number one, let's listen, let them finish speaking, don't interrupt. The A in last is acknowledge, show that you heard them. Something like an example might be, oh, that makes perfect sense to me, or I understand why you think that. One of the things I've learned sometimes in any conversation, whether it's in sales and talking to a client or whether it's in a personal relationship, is trying to put myself, put the lens on or the glasses on of the other person that I'm in communication with. How are they really seeing things? Quite often, we're not seeing things alike or in alignment, but if I can understand how they're seeing it and just acknowledge how they're seeing it, there's a validity to how they see things. Whether or not how they see things are right or wrong, and sometimes they're wrong, but to them, it's their truth, right? So we need to acknowledge um, that I understand why you think that. That makes sense to me. I see what you're saying. All right. The S in last stands for solve or maybe seek clarity. So, in other words, you could ask a question to understand what the real concern is. An example of that, can I ask what's making you feel that way? All right. The T means transition. Let's transition forward, move the conversation to the next step. Let's move the needle forward. An example would it help if I showed you how most buyers handle that fear? Okay. The teaching point here I want to get across is the goal isn't to defeat the objection. The goal really is to understand the objection, understand where they're coming from. All right. So let's talk about some of in my opinion, the three big objections real estate agents get. Number one, we're just looking. What's a great response to we're just looking? Totally fair. Most people start there. That's all you need to say. Totally fair. Most people start there. You could then ask if you want to, are you browsing ideas or are you thinking about moving sometime in the next year? All right. Curiosity, though, when you're curious about what their objection is or what they're coming with you at, the curiosity lowers their defenses. But when you pressure them, it's going to raise their defenses. Like I've noticed anytime we have a client that's objecting me for a little bit, maybe they've talked to an online lender or they've heard the fear of getting a mortgage, then the process of it seems over the top or overwhelming. Instead of being defensive about either why they should work with me and my team or whatever the case may be, is don't be defensive, which is honestly usually my first go to, and it shouldn't be. The first go to should be curious about what makes you feel that way. What are you thinking about to describe your emotion regarding this? All right, it's just listening. But curiosity, being curious with them, what's driving their answer to you, that's going to lower the defense, which helps you build a relationship and build rapport with the person. Objection number two, we already have an agent. All right, this one I think you have to be a little careful with, obviously, but I think a great response is that's great. That usually means you're serious about finding something. You could ask, have you already seen homes together? Okay, and if the answer to that is yes, I think it's appropriate to be very respectful to that relationship because Roanoke is too small of an area to have bad relationships with other agents, and it will always seem to bite you at some point. So you respect their relationship, but stay memorable. So, what is there something that you could do about the way that you do business that if that relationship does break at some point, they want to call you? Have some way of, whether it's your unique selling proposition, the spiritual gift God gave you, what is your one way that you could bring into the mix of how you market, how you have conversations with people that make you memorable? All right. But oftentimes, this is one I will hear sometimes, we've already been pre-approved by so and so. Well, I'm not going to combat that really, but I do want to know, in my world, um, I may ask, who is it? Is it a local lender that you've talked to, or is it an online lender? There's little ways in my world that I might respect the relationship. Oh, that's a great place. Be respectful to the relationship, but stay memorable in case they may come back to you. Okay. Just the way I would handle something like that. Third objection, I think that is big, is we want to wait. And this is something that I think we hear more often than not. The months of December, January, February, we want to wait a little bit. I think a great response is that makes sense. A lot of people are trying to figure out the timing right now. You're kind of agreeing with them. It's okay. But you could also ask, what would need to happen for the timing to feel right? Now, this is a similar question to the sales lady at the Airstream dealership asking us when we said that, this is not something we're going to do right now, because we gave her that too. We gave her probably two or three of these different objections. We're just looking, the timing isn't right now. This is something we would do later on. Maybe when we have less kids at home is something that we would consider. Now, what would need to feel right about the timing being right now? Um, the teaching line with this point is the objection you hear is rarely the real objection. Sometimes you have to go a little bit deeper, and sometimes you have to ask, what about this is so important to you? And and as you explore and dig a little bit deeper, that's usually when you're going to uncover what the truth is, and maybe then you can take the conversation a little bit further. But there's a lot of power and how we're asking and how we're addressing all three of those objections, there's a lot of power of just being curious, the power of curiosity. And to me, I believe this is what the difference is between average and really great real estate agents or salespeople in general. Average agents, a lot of times when they get an objection, average agent will argue. Average agent will defend their stance. Or I find myself in this next one a lot of times too. Average salespeople will over explain my point of view. Okay. Great salespeople ask questions. Great salespeople are like a detective trying to do a little digging and get into a little bit more what the person is really objecting over. So, examples of this, examples of questions of digging deeper. What part of the process feels most uncertain right now? I think that's a great question. Or what would make you feel more comfortable moving forward with me right now? What are you hoping to see might happen before making a move? I think that's a great question to someone that says right now is not the right time or we want to wait. What are you hoping to see happen before making a move? One of the things I hear a lot of times is, well, I think we're going to wait till rates drop a little bit more. Hey, I totally get it. I completely understand it. And I may ask for, can I get permission from you to just share my opinion on this? Because I've done this for a while. And then I may get into here's where rates are at. Here's over my 30-year career what the average rate is. Today's rate is better than that, by the way. And here's also just something to consider when you're buying real estate. Values aren't going to be stagnant. So if we wait for rates to go down, values aren't coming down. So it kind of negates that. Now, I don't want to over explain it to the point where I've gotten them massively confused, but sometimes just helping understand what their thinking is and asking those questions a little bit, I can start to help them understand I'm not in this to make a buck for me. I'm in this because I'm truly concerned about you starting to build wealth. And I want you to understand how this works and just kind of take it from there and let the conversation flow, but not trying to massively overeducate them with every single reason, the top 100 reasons why they should buy real estate, why they should do it now. That's too much. Trying to understand where they're at and helping them navigate through their own personal finance and their own wealth creation, that's different. One thing I am very careful about, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, if they do mention they are working with a local agent, one, I think it helps lower the defense. If they tell me they're working with Movement Mortgage, if I hear that, they've been pre-approved with Movement Mortgage, usually my first response is going to be Brian Rotenberry, amazing guy. I love that guy, great loan officer. I want to show them that I respect the local lender, right? And I do. I have a great relationship with Brian, good guy. So it lowers their defense because I'm not slamming them. I'm not trying to tell them how much better we are than them. But if there's a way that I can treat them with respect on their choice and maybe offer something again, making it memorable, then should something go wrong, and not that I hope anything does with Brian, again, I really honestly like Brian, but should it go wrong, yeah, I want to be the second choice. I want them to give me an opportunity. And I think that's the same thing in your world too, is getting that. Years ago, I heard a top agent say something that stuck with me. He said he used to hate objections. Every time someone said, we want to wait or we're just looking, he thought the deal was dead. Then one day a mentor told him this: if someone is objecting, it means they're still talking to you. People who aren't interested don't object, they just disappear. And that's a big difference. So he changed his mindset. Instead of fearing objections, he started welcoming the objections because every objection meant one thing: the conversation was still alive, right? So in business, the agent who keeps the conversation going usually will win. Objections don't end deals, silence does. I think that's a huge thing to remember. Thank you all so much for being here. Hope you have an amazing Wednesday. We'll talk to you later.